Okay, so hi Sean.
Hello.
Yeah. So I'll be talking about Python today, and the thing is recorded now, so I'll put it online later.
Okay.
So yeah, then without further ado, let's begin. Okay, so at any point in time, if you have any questions, like legit, please just feel free to stop me because the more questions indicate that you're processing the information. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Yeah, I'll be happier the more questions you ask. So
Okay.
please don't say. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So now let's begin. So Python, introduction to Python coding. Today we'll be learning about variables and input and user input. So briefly speaking, what is Python? Python is a programming language that is friendly for beginners. And once you learn Python, uh, you can transition to other languages more easily as well. So you're not short changing yourself by learning Python in any way. Yeah, so it's just a easier language to learn because the syntax is easier. And briefly, what is programming, right? It's a bunch of instructions for the computer to execute line by line. So it follows a very logical structure. And yeah, so throughout the lesson, we'll be going through some code exercise. We're going through some code snippet, and I encourage you to also try hands-on experimentation because it's only when you type the code, right, that you can really remember it. So far, what you later you see, you might think that okay, I understand, but then when you need to actually write the code, then it might be a bit you might realize that you don't know how to do certain things. So the best way to learn coding is to write code yourself. So I also have some exercises in the Replit Teams which I'll share with your email later. Then you can access it. And there I can see and comment on your code to help you improve. So let's jump into the first concept, which is variables. So variables, these are the three subtopics that we'll be covering today. And then later on, we'll talk about input. So variables, briefly, they are containers of information. So as you know, variables in math, right, they store a certain value, right? And then you, for example, you have equation in variable x squared plus 2x plus 1, and then you need to solve for this variable x, right? Find out, using arithmetic manipulations, you find out what the value of x is, the unknown value of x. That's the variables in math. But actually, this notion of variables in math is completely irrelevant to coding. And instead, in coding, variables are actually um, a different concept, which is variables are containers of information. So you can think of a variable like a box, right, with a label on it. So this is the label on the box is a variable name. So you store information in it, you can replace the information in it, right? You can edit the information in it, and you can basically move information around. So without further ado, let's try our first code snippet. So let's go over to the website, right? Replit .com/languages slash
Oh,
Python 3.
okay.
So I'll just put it in the chat, and yeah, you can also see my screen, right?
Yeah, I can. I create an account.
Yeah, can, sure. So yeah, take your time. I think it'll be good if we look at the same code. So I share. You can join my this one, the second link.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I see you're there. Right. So
Uh,
okay. So over here we see two panels. Let me bring it over. We see two panels, right? That's the left panel and the right panel. So we'll start off with using the right panel, right? So over here we write code line by line, and then we press enter. Then for each line of code, there'll be some sort of thing being done. Then on the left, we'll talk about the left later. But let's start on the right first. So let me just bring this over. So so how do you create a variable? We create a variable by using by writing the variable name that we want to assign the variable. So let's say I want to create a variable called x and I assign it to the value 5. Then later, so when I press enter, once I press enter, you see the next line, right? Then now x is the variable that stores the value 5. So if I go and print x, right? Print x will tell Python to print the value stored in the variable x to the screen. So when I press enter, you see the number 5 pop out. Okay. So this information x can be replaced also. So if let's say the next line, I write x equals to 6, right? And I press enter, the moment I press enter, Python throws out whatever value x held previously, right? It empties the box, empties the container, and it stores in the new value 6 into the variable x. So now if I print x, then you see 6. 5 is forgotten forever already. So unlike math, right, where the variables hold a constant fixed value, in coding, your variables are containers of information that the information stored inside them can be replaced by new information, and the previous one is thrown out. So if I write x equals to 10, right, and I press enter and print x, what do you think the output is going to be?
10.
Correct. Very good. So this first image over here, this first example over here shows that variables are containers of information, and the information they store can change as your program runs over time. Okay, so if I click the cross up here, it clears the output. So then the next, so let's go to the second example. Let's say I have a variable x. I create the variable x and I store the value 1 inside it. Okay, so if I print x, of course, I'll see 1 come out. Then let's write x equals to x plus 10. Now, the moment I press enter, right, you see that this line of code that I typed in, right, it wouldn't make sense in math. In math, there's no solution to x because there's no value of x that satisfies this equation. But in coding, there was no problem with this line of code. That's because, right, and if I print x, right, then you see that x is now 11. Now, what does this line of code then mean? It means that when this line of code illustrates that the equal sign in Python is different from the equal sign in math. In math, when you have an equal sign, you're asserting that the left-hand side must be equal to the right-hand side. But in coding, the equal sign is a reassignment. It's an assignment of the value on the right-hand side to the variable on the left-hand side. So when you have an equal sign, the left-hand side will be some variable name, and the right-hand side will be some value that you want to give to the variable. So in this case, x plus 10, it was 1 plus 10. So the right hand side was the value 11, and the left hand side was the variable x. So I was saying x equals to 11. That's why when I print x, I see 11. Okay, so far?
Yeah. Wait, so x is 1 because you type it first, right? You type
Correct.
x
Yes,
equals 1 first. Oh, okay.
correct.
Can
Yeah. So if I go ahead and write x equals to x minus 5, right? And then I
it
print
becomes
x.
-4.
No. Actually, because the current value of x is 11. After
Oh,
I
okay.
updated the value x here to be 11, so after I type this line of code, what do you think the output is going to
Oh,
be?
6. Yeah, sorry.
Correct. Very good. So you can see that the whatever changes I made to x, right? It forgot whatever it was previously already. Now then, at the second, at this where my cursor is right now, right? At this point in time, x held the value 11. So when I type this, it wasn't -4. It's instead 6. Okay. Cool.
Okay.
Okay. Very good. So now let's go to the last example where if I type x plus 1 equals to 3, right? So in math, this would make sense. Then you rearrange and you get x equals to 2. But if I press enter in Python, it says there's an error. And it says the error is cannot assign to operator. Now, the reason there's an error is because the left-hand side is not a variable. The left-hand side is an expression. So in Python, when you have an equal sign, the left-hand side must be only just the variable name that you want to reassign the value to. Okay, so can
Yeah, can.
yeah, so these three examples just illustrates how the variable works in Python and how it differs from math. Yeah, so that's variables in Python. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about arithmetic with variables. So similar to math, right? Actually, we can do arithmetic with variables. So let's say I create a variable with the called a with the value 10, and let's say I create a variable b with the value 2. Then when I print a divided by b, right, it prints 10 divided by 2. That's why you see 5 come out. Okay,
Okay.
that's arithmetic. Then yeah, so I can type I can type arithmetic expressions using variables and it would work. So yeah, and one thing to note is so the plus minus times divide, the order of operations, it follows the same thing as math lah. So if I print, let's say if I print 1 plus 2 times 3, then it's gonna do the 2 times 3 first, just like how in math similarly. Yeah. So one last thing to note is that besides plus minus times divide, you can also find the remainder of a number when divided by another number. So if I do 5 2, right, then I'm going to see remainder of 1. So if I do like 10 remainder 4, right, then I'm going to see 2. So the percentage sign just means remainder in Python. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's basic arithmetic with variables. So here's a checkpoint. Yeah, so in the actual class, maybe I'll do like a Kahoot quiz or something, but since it's just you, what you want to guess what the output is going to be if I have these lines of code? It's okay if you get it wrong. It's perfectly okay.
Is it 2?
2?
Yeah.
2?
Wait,
Yeah.
as in the answer is 3. I mean, option 3. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, option 3, correct. So okay, I should probably relabel these to be A, B, C, D. Yeah, correct. So the answer is 2 because at this line of code, right, it was B equals to 4 over 2. So when you print B, it gives you 2, correct. So yeah, so let's go ahead and try another example. So what do you think the value of the output would be now?
Uh,
Okay, if you get it wrong, yeah, let's give it a try.
wait, sorry. What's the asterisk?
Oh, multiplication.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay. Uh, 2 times 10, 20 minus 3, 17. Yeah.
Correct, very good. So in fact, the answer is 17 because, yeah, as you said it. Okay, so you can name your variables anything you want, right? So just now we named it A, B, C, and then you can also name it anything you want, but there's some naming conventions that you need to follow. For example, you cannot have a space in the variable name, right? It will throw an error. You can use an underline to kind of denote a space. So basically the variable name must be one word. And yeah, it must be one word and it's case sensitive also. So if you have two variables, called my variable, right? One with a small v and one with a capital V, they are different variables. So yeah, so variable names are case sensitive.
Okay.
So yeah. So okay, now it's time to talk about what the left panel means. So right, if you open up the screen like that, right? If you split in half, then you're gonna see this panel. So perhaps you want to try to open it up now.
Okay.
Yeah, so are you able to see the panel split in half like that, right? So on the left-hand side, the code goes into here. So just now we write code line by line, right? But normally when we code, we write one whole chunk of code, then we press run, right? We click the green button here, click run, then the output will be here on the right-hand side. Then, yeah, so let me just illustrate that. So let's say, so let me just illustrate that. So I'll just clear the output over here. Then let's say I have a variable x equals to 1. So yeah, you can see the screen, right?
Yeah.
You can see
Okay.
the shared code. That's good. So let's say I create a variable x with the value 1 and I print x. So now if I press run, right, it's going to go line by line. It's going to read Python is going to read line 1, execute line 1. Then it's going to read line 2 and execute it. It's going to go on sequentially. So if I press run, you see that now it output 1, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, then if let's say x equals to 2, right? Then I print x. So this one is gonna run line. When I press run, it's gonna run line by line again. So it goes first line, then second line it prints 1, then third line it sets x equals to 2, fourth line it prints 2. So if I press run, you see the output is 1 for corresponding to this print statement, and then 2 corresponding to this print statement. Can?
10.
Yeah. So previously, right, we were typing it line by line, and we press enter to like interact with the program, but now we write it all in one shot, and then we press run, and then you see the output. So you write x equals x plus 3, then print x. So just a quick test. What do you think the output is going to be? The three numbers that's going to be outputted. So what do you think they are?
Uh,
It's okay if you just give it a try.
wait, is it 2 plus 3?
Yes, correct. So the last one will output 5. So the output when you press run, right, it's going to be 1 for the first print statement, 2 for the second one, and the last one could be 5.
Okay.
Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. Okay, so yeah, so that's for the console. I mean that's for the where you write the code and then this is known as the console.
Hmm.
So Okay, so next thing, sometimes you see sometimes you see this hashtag sign, right? And then after that, you can write whatever words you want. And this hash whatever comes after the hashtag sign, right? That line of code is ignored. So for example, I have this code and this output, and you see that x equals to 4, print x, you see 4, x equals to 5, print x, then we see the corresponding 5. Then over here we have x equals to 1, but then it has this hashtag before it. So this line of code, line 6, right, is actually ignored. So it's not executed basically. So comments are a way for you to comment your code. So when you print x after that, you see that x still remains 5 because line 6 didn't execute, it was ignored. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically comments are a way for programmers to talk about the code lah. So I say this line increments by 3, increments x by 3, something like that. It allows them to talk to the reader or talk to themselves. Okay, so that's Python comments. So now okay, so now let me try to invite you to um my thing. And what's your email?
SeanLoweOfficial@gmail.com.
Okay, let me just invite you. So you see in the email, then you can open up my variable hands-on.
Okay. Mm, Uh,
You receive the email?
my email don't have. I haven't received an email. Wait, can I
Oh,
see on the website?
uh,
Oh, oh yeah, I've been invited to join.
okay, good, good. It takes a while, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, by the way, I'll upload all the slides to some drive later. So yeah.
Okay. Wait, I'm at the beginner Python lessons already, but I
Correct, correct.
can't access it. I don't know. What should I
Oh,
do?
did I publish it? Let me see, yeah. Okay, sorry, I didn't publish. Okay, okay. Now I published it. So you should be able to see the variable hands-on. Do you see variable hands-on?
Uh,
You can refresh the page.
uh, it's just beginner Python lesson.
Yeah. So
I,
um,
hmm,
are you able to see it? So you see variable hands-on. Do you see that one? How
I
come you, how
I
again?
don't I don't see it.
Okay, try refreshing again one more time.
Oh, okay, can see
Okay,
already.
great.
Yeah,
Okay, wonderful. Okay. So yeah, you can click on it. Then
yeah,
um,
I'm inside now.
okay, sure. So now I can spy on you. And then yeah, okay. So if you look at there should be the tab saying instructions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can take a look at instructions, or you can take a look at my screen also. So you can try to follow the instructions and do the exercise.
Oh, okay.
Mm-mm.
Do I type the radius in section in the first line?
Uh, You can type in the third line. Because
Oh,
the
okay.
first two lines are just comments. Anything will do. Yeah. Yeah.
Then I
Yep.
set it to 5.
Correct. So you need to set it to equals a value, you need the equal sign.
Oh, okay.
Yep, that works, yeah. So then after that,
Uh,
after line 3, um,
do I move to the fourth line?
yeah, correct. So you need to you press enter. So like after line 3, right, you press enter, just like how
Oh,
in Microsoft Word lah. Then
okay.
you yeah. Okay, actually you must delete the space in the beginning. I'll talk more about that later on.
Oh,
Mm. Yeah, correct. Very good. So lastly, step 3.
is it?
You must tell when you type area and you press enter, right? Python doesn't know like what like it's just creating a variable called area, but then you need to, yeah, correct, you press equal to assign it to a value. Then here's where you can use the arithmetic in Python to
Oh, okay.
calculate. Yeah.
Uh, oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay, I know. Oh, so is it like 3 asterisks 4?
3 times 4. Okay, so
Wait,
right
as in
now
3, 4, and then square root of pi. Wait,
is so the area of the circle is pi r squared, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to calculate, so right now, so you want to calculate pi r squared using Python. So the pi is in this variable called pi, and the r is the variable radius. So you want to write something like area equals to pi r squared in Python.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, wait, oh, okay, okay.
Right now you just set it to equals to value 12, like, which is valid Python code, but it doesn't calculate the area of the circle.
Wait, so wait, do I put 5 square times 3.14?
Yeah, correct. So
Oh, okay, okay.
that will calculate the uh so yes, you could do that. But I would like you to use the variables also. So like right now you write 5 squared.
Oh,
Yeah, correct, correct. Yeah. So that's radius times pi. So it's the radius needs to be squared. So
oh, okay. Wait, how to square the radius? Can I just do this?
yeah, that works. That's one
Oh,
way of
okay.
doing it. Correct. So if you yeah, so that's step 3, correct. Um So just now when you wrote area equal to 3 times 4, right? It is valid Python code, right? Python wouldn't complain, but then what is valid to Python is not really logically valid lah. So there's also a distinction between like whether your program works, like whether it runs successfully, and like even though your program runs successfully, it might not make sense logically also sometimes. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
more of syntax error versus logic error. Yeah.
So you're
So
not supposed to like, so I mean like the representation is not the number of the line, lah, but it's the actual variable.
oh, yeah, yeah, indeed, indeed. Correct, correct. It's the variable name. So it's
Okay.
not the line 3 and line 4. Yeah,
Okay.
that's good. That's a good question. Yeah. So yeah, so now if you want to go ahead and let's say you want to print your area, then
Hmm.
okay, when you write print, yeah, you need the brackets. That's right. Print area. Okay, so you go ahead and press run. If you press
Oh,
run,
okay. Oh, wow.
yeah, so they see that you have successfully calculated the area of a circle of radius 5. So the beauty of variables, right, is you see, right, just now when you wrote 5 times 5 times pi, right,
Yeah.
if you wrote like manually, right, then if I change the radius variable to equals to let's say 6, right, then your area would be still 5 times 5 times 3.14, right? But now that you write it like that, right? Now it takes radius, the whatever the value radius holds. So if I press run, then now it calculates the area of a circle with radius 6.
Hmm.
So if I go here and radius 10, then you're gonna see like 314 like that, something like that. So it becomes a calculator like that, where you can change your variables, and then your area is automatically calculated. Yeah, so you can start to see that the power of Python already in just a few lines of code, right?
Oh, okay.
So yeah, the automation lah, kind of. So okay, so that's the answers, right? So one valid thing that which you did, right, which is pi times radius times radius. Another valid thing you can do is create another variable called r squared and set it to radius times radius. Then your area equals pi times this r squared variable. Yeah.
Oh,
So you can
so
also do that. Yeah, it's perfectly okay.
wait, so you want to do square, then you put radius and then two asterisks.
Oh yeah, correct. So that's the exponent in Python. Yeah, so that's the third method, which is two asterisks. And two star means exponent in Python, but and the you might usually in math you write like the caret, right? But caret means something else in Python. So don't use the caret, use the two star for exponent. And
Okay. Oh, then you can just type r squared lah.
yeah,
Oh,
you can do that.
okay,
So if you're
I just saw that, yeah.
yeah, if you want to give it a try,
Oh,
as in
okay.
I intended you to discover this also. So you can give it a try. You see that it works too. Okay, you can go ahead and try to run this. Okay, it's fine, right? This is a good learning point because right now you have r squared like that, right? But
Oh, yeah.
in my example, r squared was a variable I created with the value radius times radius. But in this case, you didn't define what r squared is.
Oh, okay. So I
Yeah,
have to type r squared after line 3, is it?
correct. Yes, yeah, that's right.
Wait. Oh, equals to,
Mm-hmm.
is it? Wait.
Yeah, that works too. Radius stars.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
like that can, right? Or you want radius star star two also can.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
makes sense, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so now it's a good thing to talk about something. So let's say my line four, right? What if I move my line four to before line three? If I press run, you see that there's an error. So how do you read the error? You read the error here, say line three, the radius is not defined, which means that Python goes to line three, right? And it tries to calculate the value radius times radius, but radius is a variable that is not defined yet. So that's why line three, right? That's why the r squared equals to radius and radius needs to come after you define the radius variable.
Okay.
Makes sense? So it goes sequentially. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that works. Yeah. So you see that there's three examples of code, right? Three samples over here that both all produce the correct answer. And these are known as three in Python, right? In coding in general, these are known as three implementations of the same behavior. So sometimes when somebody wants to do something in coding, they might do it a slightly different way from you. And even though their code looks different from yours, right? It doesn't look exactly one to one the same, but their code can still behave the same way and it's completely okay. So yeah.
Okay.
So that's just something to note. Yeah. Okay, so now that we talked about variables in using numbers, right? So we know variables can store numbers, but the variables can also store other data types also. So they can store data like decimals, right? That's known as floats. So just now yeah, they can store decimals, we know as floats. They can store words, which is known as strings, and they can store true or false. Um, like these are known as booleans. So more on that later. Yeah, so to find the type of variable, you can call the function type and then pass in the variable name. Yeah, but don't worry about it too much. As in, I just want to tell you that you can find the type of variable that way.
Okay.
Okay, so now we saw numbers, right? Let's move on to strings. So you can define variables that store strings also. So let's say I want to store the words hello world. Then I have an X and I set it to equals to hello world. Then when I print X, you see that it just prints the string. Yeah. Then I can also it similar to the container of information idea. You can also replace your whatever is stored in the variable. And after that, yeah. So do you understand this snippet of code?
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, good. So and for strings, you can use either single or double quotes. It, they, but you need to put the quotes. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So if you want to, you can also so-called add strings together. And how that will look like is if you have so let me just use the panel over here. So let's say I have a variable x which stores the string cat says, right? And then I have a variable y which stores the string meow. Then I can print x plus y, and the plus over here it will put the two strings together side by side. So you see that when I print, it says the Python says cat says meow. Make sense?
Yeah.
And one thing you note over here is that there's no spacing between says and meow, and that's because in the string, right, when you have spaces, it matters. So the strings inside strings, right, when you have spaces or when you don't have spaces, right, Python would take it as literally whether there's a space or not. So if I want to introduce a space over here, then perhaps my variable cat says, after I say cat says, I need to leave a blank space like that, such that when I print x plus y, then you see there's a space here. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah. So point is, in Python, the spacing, in the strings, right, the spacing matters inside the quotes. Yeah. Okay, so then you can also repeat a string multiple times. So let's say I have a string called y and it's meow. Then if I print 3 times y, then I'll see meow, meow, meow. Yeah. So yeah. Then last thing is that what if I want to print, what if I want to put like a variable in the middle of a string? Then what you can do is you can, okay, so I'm thinking of where I should write the code. Okay, let me just comment this part out, right? So that let me just comment it out. So if I go to line 1, so if I have, let's say, a variable called 8 and I assign it the value 18, then if I want to print, let's say you are 18 years old, but I want to print, instead of 18, I want to print the variable age. So if I just write something like that, right? If I just say print you are 8 years old, then the problem is that when I press run, Python will literally say you are 8 years old. It doesn't know that this age is actually referring to the variable name age. So how I can circumvent that is I can put a f in front of the string, right, before I declare the string. This f means formatted. Then after that, I enclose this age with these curly brackets. Then when I press run, you see that now it says you are 18 years old. Make sense?
Yeah.
Then the power of this is that you might be wondering, why can't I just say, why can't I just literally say you are 18 years old? Like, why must I do this formatting thing? Because then now my age variable is calculated in some other way. Let's say I put 200, age equal 200, then now it says you are 200 years old. So this allows, the formatted string uh, allows us to print out the value of a variable among the string. Can?
Can.
Okay, good. So okay, so now let's go on to question 2. So if you can take a look at the instructions, right? Did I? Yeah, I wrote instructions for it. So I want you um to 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 follow the instructions. Yeah.
Okay. I start on line 14, is it?
You edit the codes. You edit the code after line 9, so you can change what I wrote over here also.
Oh,
Yeah. Um.
oops.
Actually, I wanted you to edit the name variable, the one at line 11.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, that's right, that's right. So then now try to print using these two variables. Right, try to print. Okay, is it okay? Just give it a try. Yeah. So if you let's try to run this. Let's see what it says. Okay, right now it says that there's invalid syntax. That's because your string my name is Sean isn't in quotes. Yeah, so Python, when things are not in quotes, right? Python is looking for a variable called my, is looking for a variable called name, is looking for a variable called is looking for a variable called Sean.
oh, okay.
So right now it's correct.
Okay.
But actually, what I intended for you to try is, see right now, if I change the Sean, right, to Qian Hao, right, then when I press run, it still says my name is Sean because we're printing my name is Sean to the screen. So I want it such that if I change the whatever this name variable holds, right, it changes what it prints to the screen accordingly. So
Okay.
yeah, are you able to give it a try? If not, yeah, don't worry, just give it a try.
Hmm. Wait. So, wait, what should I do now?
Okay, so inside the instructions, right, just now it says store your own name in the variable name, which you did, right? Then
Yeah.
after that, it says edit the print statement to print my name is, and then instead of the Sean here, I want you to print whatever is stored inside the variable called name. Um, yeah, okay, for now it will work, but then if I change the variable name, right, if I change this one to, let's say, Henry, then it will still print Shen Hao. So like, I want to edit the name here and then see here change. You get what I mean?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, see the output change accordingly.
So,
Okay, so remember how to concatenate the two strings together. Okay, let me bring to the slide. So over here, yeah, so you see that if you look at my screen, then if I have the variable x and it says cat says and the variable y says meow, then x plus y will say cat says meow. So perhaps you can, yeah,
oh, okay.
yeah,
So, oh, okay.
yeah,
Wait,
yeah,
so
correct.
should I print, uh, act, should I print template plus name?
Correct, yeah, yeah. So don't edit template, right? Leave template alone.
Okay.
Then you print template plus name. You don't need the quotes because it's a variable name. So if
Oh,
you run this right now, it says it's literally gonna print
oh,
template. Yeah.
okay.
Correct. So let's run this now and see that it
Oh,
says my
okay.
name is Henry.
Yeah.
So yeah, so right now if I change Henry to Sean, right, then you'll say my name is Sean.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's right. So very good, very good.
Wait, so the x plus y, what is that called?
Concatenating of strings
Oh,
or
okay.
adding of strings together. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Mm. So yeah, that's concatenating strings. And yeah, so okay, so that's very good. So yeah, so this is the correct code, right? Yeah,
Hmm.
you write template plus name. So yeah, so that's all for the numbers and words. Let's go on to something called type conversion. So what if I try to, like, so far we have seen numbers, right, which are integers or floats, and then we have seen words which are called strings. But what if I try to put both of them, like add both of them together, a string plus integer? You see that the following code would fail because if I try to print hi plus the number 5, it says can only concatenate string to string. Basically, it's saying you cannot add a string to an integer. So how do I circumvent that? I put the y, right? Around the y, I put str. So this converts the y from a number to a string. Can?
Oh, okay.
Okay. So after you type str y, right? Str y would be a string. Then you can add a string in a string. Then that will work.
Hmm, okay.
Okay, can? Yeah.
That's all.
So and okay, so what if I have um so what if I have, let's say I have and I can also convert a string to an integer. So let's say I have x equals to 5, y equals to 6, and I want to find out the value. I want to get like x plus y. I want to get 11 outside. So then I need to currently y is the string 6, right? The string containing a character 6. But if I want Python to think of y as the number 6, then I need to put int or brackets y. Then now you think of it as 5 plus 6 as in the number sense. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And likewise, if let's say my y was 6.1, then I put float around y, then float brackets y, then it'll be converted to a decimal.
Okay.
So okay, so that's for variables. Now let's talk about user input. So user input will be where so far we assign values to variables, but it's a bit boring, right? Like how do we inject our own, how do we talk to the person running the code? So we can do so using the input command. So I'll demonstrate what it means later. So let's say I create a variable called animal, I assign it to equals to this input, and I put round brackets, and inside the round brackets, I sandwich in between the prompt that I want to ask the user. So for example, what is your favorite animal? Then after I print, I also like plus animal. So what would that look like? So if I go ahead and run it, so let's say so animal equals to input, what is your favorite animal? Question mark. Then after that, if I just print animal, right? So what happens when I run? When I press run, code asks me what is my favorite animal. So if I type, then here's where I can put in my user input. So if I type cat, right, CAT, and I press enter, then after that, it'll store my user input in the variable animal, right? And I can do whatever I want with the user input. In this case, I just printed it out.
Wait,
So
wait, so, you type the cat in the
correct.
other side.
So if you say like that, right? If I want to say I type in some other user input, I type dog, right? And I press
Oh, yeah,
enter, then dog is stored in the variable animal. And then when I print animal, that's why I'll put dog. Yeah.
okay.
So from here I can do stuff with it. So let's say I can say I also like plus animal. Then what will happen is that when I press run and I put dog, right? Then it's going to say I also like plus the variable, whatever is stored in the variable animal, variable called animal. Then the variable currently stores dog because I inputted dog. So it says I also like dog. Make sense?
Yeah,
Okay, so you can see that perhaps you can say what is your name, right? Then you can talk to the user like that. You can say hello. Then let's say I want to put hello. Then inside here I put animal. Oh wait, I shouldn't put story called. Let's say I store the variable called name. So the so name equals to input what is your name, right? Then I print a formatted string saying hello to this person.
oh,
So I
okay,
press run, then what is your name? Let's say my name is Sean. Then when I press enter, it says hello Sean. Interesting?
okay.
Then
And,
yeah. So that is user input. Then what if you want to take in the user's number? So let's say I ask, right? Let's say I ask what is your favorite number? Then I store it in a variable called num. Then later let's try to multiply the user's number by 2. Okay, so uh let's print num times 2. So you see right now if I press run, right? Then you say what's my favorite number? Let's say my favorite number is 2. Then what will I see? Instead of printing 4, right, it prints 22. And why is that so? That's because the number currently is taken literally as 2 like that, as a string 2. And then remember what happens when you multiply a string by a number? It repeats the string. So that's why we see 2 instead of 4. Okay, so in order to convert the user's input into an integer, I need to put int around here. I put int and then the input. Then now when I print number times 2, then when I type 2, right, now we see that is 4. Does it make sense?
yeah,
Okay. So yeah, so perhaps uh what if okay, yeah, can, right?
yeah, can.
Okay, then the next one, so what if, let's say the user inputs, let's say 0.1. So the problem is when I press enter, it says an error because 0.1 is not an integer. So instead of having int over here, I must say I convert it to a float. A float is a decimal, basically. In Python,
Oh,
a float is just a word for decimal. So when I press run, then now if I put it 0.1, then it would show the output 0.2. Then
can.
okay, so that's how you take in the user's input, right? So you can see that with this, right, you can actually you can actually have interactive programs. So let's say I want to create a birthday age calculator lah. So I can ask the user for his year born, then I store it in a variable called year born, then equals to, I ask him for his input converted to an integer. Then after that I just print you are, then 2022 minus the year born, years old. So if the user inputs 2003, then it's gonna output you're 19-year-old. You understand this code snippet?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead and try an exercise. Let's which one do you think is you want to try? Both around the same difficulty. So
BMI calculator.
okay, sure. So yeah, okay, so you can go ahead and edit the code on here. I didn't put it as a question yet lah, so you can just write it. Yeah, I can write it at line 14, anywhere will do.
Okay.
So okay, let me give you a while. I go refill my water. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so I understand what you're trying to do. You're trying to say like display a BMI calculator, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so right now if you press run, right, then it's gonna say like the first line at line 14, they're gonna say line 14 as invalid syntax. So if you want to print it out to the screen, then what you need to do is you put quotes around BMI calculator, right? Then you print BMI calculator. So now if I press run, then you see on the right hand side, okay, right now there's still this error, but if I press run, then you see it's gonna print BMI calculator to the screen. Is that what you want?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh wait, sorry, the hashtag. Wait.
Mhm. The hashtag means it ignores that line of code. So whatever comes after the hashtag is invisible to the Python.
Okay.
So you want to take in the user's input with a prompt saying enter height in meters, right?
Yeah, I also need to put print.
Yes, you could say print, but if you want to take in the user's input, then you can put input and then instead of putting print, you put input. So it'll be, yep, correct, input. Okay, yeah, that's almost correct. So remember that when you want to have when you have print, like right now if you run, right, Python will look for a keyword called, look for a variable name called enter. Yeah, correct. So you need to put quotes around it. So now the entire thing is orange, means that it's a string.
Okay.
So if you press run right now, or you can continue coding also can. Yeah. Yeah, you mean kg, right?
Oh. Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So um all right. So so right now, right? So if you press run, then what you see is that they tell you enter your height in meters. Then let's say my height is 1.7, right? Then I press enter, then it's gonna say enter your weight in kg, and I think I'm like 60 kg. I press enter, then the program ends for now, right? So you want to use the information that the user input to calculate the BMI. So how you do so first, the first step is to create variables to store, okay, so you have your BMI equals to, your BMI is calculated using your height and weight, right? So right now, when the user input the height and weight, the information is just lost. It's just, it's just, it's just like, it's not remembered by your code. So you need to create variables to store them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So remember the syntax for creating a variable to store input is this.
Mm,
Yeah. So if you look at my screen, you can see that this is how you store a user's input in the variable.
oh, okay.
Mm.
Wait, so uh,
Uh,
why do I enter your height times enter your weight? Is that it?
the the yeah, that actually works. But it'll be easier if it'll be better if you can store, like, so if you look at line 15, right, it'd be better if you can height equals to, then ask for the user's input. Then
Oh,
since the user's height is a decimal, you put float, right, in the beginning, and then you encase the input inside the round brackets. So that's how I do it for height. Make sense?
yeah. Wait,
So
then
what
oh,
So what line 15 does is it asks the users for the it is asks the users the input for the height, right? Using this prompt. Then after the user input ready, it converts it to a float type of variable. Then it stores the user's input, in this case 1.7, into the variable height. So if I after that I print height, right, then you'll see whatever the user input. Make sense? So you want to do the similar thing for the weight.
okay.
Yeah, I just comment out the line 17 for now. So you can try the similar thing for the weight.
Uh, wait, is it type in the same line?
Uh, it needs to be the lines. The whole code can be multiple lines.
Like, wait, it's like height times weight, is it?
I think it's height. The formula is weight divided by height squared.
Oh.
Yeah.
Um, wait, then line 17 is what?
Line 17. Okay, right now line 17 is commented out. I know you're trying to calculate your BMI, right? Um, so okay, if your BMI is later you want to create a variable called BMI and you store it the value of height, weight divided by height squared. All right. So this is what you want to achieve later on. And then after that, you say print your BMI is
Okay.
print BMI. Yeah. But right now, if you try to run this at the moment, right, your weight variable isn't defined yet. So yeah, so you want to follow like the example of line 15 to create your weight variable in line 16.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you understand what I'm trying to go for?
Yeah.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, correct. Mm. In kg again. Yeah.
Uh, oh, why do you need to put a space?
Oh, it's just to look neater lah, because
Oh, okay, okay.
yeah, because that's the whatever. If not, you don't see a space, then
Okay. Oh, wait, this STR is
mhm.
what again? Sorry.
This STR, it converts it converts a number, right, a number data type to a string. So for example, I have the number 5 on the screen of the number 5, but then if I want to add it to another string, then before I add the number 5 to the string, I need to convert 5 to a string containing the letter 5.
Oh, okay.
Hmm. If not, you see that it cannot add up.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you try running this, okay, so now it says enter your height in meters. So you want to enter?
Oh,
Mhm. Oh, you don't need to put the M behind. Yeah, yeah, correct. So, yeah, can.
okay, okay.
Okay,
And
yeah. Yeah, do you want to do the adding up exercise?
okay.
Sure, sure. So let's, so yeah, basically let's build a calculator that adds up two numbers. So yeah, I'll just comment this part out, right? I'll put these triple quotes around it to comment that. So now the entire orange thing is not going to be executed, but you can use it as reference to see what you should do.
Uh,
Yeah. Okay, perhaps I step through the logic of the BMI calculator again. Right?
okay.
Okay, so if uh so when I press run, right, the first thing I see is BMI calculator. And that's because we printed BMI calculator to the screen. Then after that, I create a variable called height, right? Remember, variables store information. So I create a variable called height and I assign it to equals to whatever the user inputs. And how do I tell the user what to input? I put it in the prompt over here, which is enter your height in meters. So now after the user enters the height in meters, right, 4.76, then it goes to the next line, line 17, and Python will now create a variable called weight and store it to whatever the user inputs. And how do we tell the user what to input? We want the user to input their weight. So we put this prompt over here, which is why we see it appear like that. Okay. Then the user inputs his weight, and when he press enter, then it goes to line 18, right? So right now, line 16 and line 17 stores, it created variables height and weight. We stored the user's height and weight is in the form of a number.
Hmm.
Then line 18 will calculate the BMI according using arithmetic, right? Then line 19. So now line 18, the variable BMI would store the user's BMI, and then line 19 would print it out saying your BMI is BMI. But because BMI is currently a number, and if you want to add it to a string, then you need to convert the BMI from a number into a string. Make sense?
Okay. Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Good, good. Yeah. So yeah, so let's go ahead and try. So similarly, right, the other one should be quite similar in idea.
The question was to do what? To
Oh,
add. Oh,
yeah, build a calculator that adds two numbers. So
okay.
yeah, correct. So I remember that you cannot space spaces in the variable names. So uh, I tried. Yeah, okay, that works too. If you create a variable called number, okay, and you want to ask the user for a number. That's right. Yeah, very good. Then you're missing one close bracket. Yep, correct. So now you closed it off. Then you can go to the next line. Okay, now, yeah, correct. Number two. So there's a different variable from this number variable.
Hmm.
Mhm. Yeah. So insert the second number. So the answer, create answer variable equals to, yeah, very good. And lastly, print.
This one don't need to shrink, right?
Still need, because currently the answer is a number. So
Oh,
you need
and
to
it's still
convert,
linked to the rest now.
correct. You want to concatenate it, you want to add it, link it with the another string. So yeah, that's correct. So if you go ahead and run this, that would be good. Okay. Yeah, so your answer is 7.0. Yeah, if you want the space between is and 7, yeah, then you put it there. That's right.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Very good, very good. Okay, so just a quick recap of what we've learned today, right? We're reaching the end. We've learned that variables, they store information, right? And then unlike math, right, your variables can change their whatever they store. And you can write equations, you can write lines of code like x equals x plus 10, because the equal sign is not a assertion that the left and right hand side must be equal, but the equal sign is saying I want to assign a new value on the right hand side to the variable on the left hand side. So it replaces whatever value was stored in the variable initially. Then you cannot write expressions like x plus 1 equals to 3 because the left hand side must be a variable name. And then we did arithmetic, and then we did some exercises, and then we learned how to write code in the left panel over here. Then after that, this is talk about comments, right? Hashtag, after whatever comes after the hashtag is ignored. And we learn how to do arithmetic we tried calculating the area of a circle. Then we talked about variable types, and we learn some stuff that you can do with strings. You can concatenate strings together. We can repeat strings multiple times. Then we learn how to print the value of a variable inside a string using formatted string, using the F here. And then we practice with it. And then lastly, we learn how to convert different variable types to each other. So for example, converting a number, an integer, to a string, or converting a string to a number. And lastly, we learn how to take in user input so we can have a bit more interactivity. And we built the calculators and the PMI calculator. So
Okay.
yeah, so I hope that it can understand, right? Ken, is it okay? Any
Yeah.
questions?
Oh, it's good. I think yeah, I think I don't have any question.
Okay, thank you very much. So let me just stop the recording.